Welcome back. In this video, I want to tell you one more thing about chart 23, okay? So, let's take a look at what we already know, and then we'll move to the new information. So, we used this sentence before. If I blank have $1 million, I blank give you half. Now, again, have $1 million, it's my imagination, right? So, if I want to show this is my imagination, in the if clause, I'll use simple past. And in the other clause, or the main clause, I will use would plus simple form. So, take a minute, complete that sentence in your mind, or complete it on a piece of paper. Okay. And remember to pause. You can pause whenever you want to. So here, simple past would be, if I had $1 million, I would give you half. I'll use would in simple form in the other clause, simple past in the if clause. Good? Now, this is what we have already learned. I want to show you one more thing about using simple present, or using present imaginary sentences. If I blank be rich, I blank give you half my money. Here, you might notice, oh, the verb in the if clause is be. When I am speaking or writing formal English or educated English, there's something special about be in the if clause. So, take a minute and look at this. This part will just be the same. So, hold on just a second. So I remember main clause, I'll use simple past. The other clause, I'll use would in simple form. This clause just stays the same. So I'd say I would give. The if clause is also simple past. But there's one special rule that I need to know. Would you take a minute in your mind or on a piece of paper and just see how would you finish this sentence? Pause if you want to. Okay, now, you will hear English speakers do this two ways. I am going to tell you first the formal, or what's considered the educated way to do this. What I would say is, and this is going to seem strange, if I were rich, I would give you half my money. And you may be sitting there saying, what? I always learned that when I use I in the past, it's I was. Why is it I were? Let me tell you the rule, and then we'll talk more about it. So, the rule is this. When the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's he, maybe it's she, maybe it's it, maybe it's they, maybe it's we. Whenever I use whenever in a present imaginary sentence, when the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were. Okay? Now, let me give you another example for this. I'm going to erase up here. Say. Let's see. Okay. Now, take a look at this sentence. If I blank be you, I blank buy a new phone. If you feel ready, pause and fill in what you think that should be. If you'd still like to hear more, you don't have to pause. Let's talk about this. So, what I want to remember is when the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were. So were is simple past, but I always use were. So an American might say, if I were you. And then the rest of the sentence is, I would buy a new phone. This is something you'll hear Americans, or any English speaker, say a lot. They'll say, if I were you. That's because it's my imagination. I'm not you. I'm you. I'm just in my imagination. I'm pretending I'm you. So I'd say, if I were you, I would buy a new cell phone. I think you may have heard this. And if you've heard this, then this will sound less strange. So the basic rule here is, when the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were. When the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were. Okay, I want to tell you one more thing, and then I'm going to show you some more examples. Remember that I said there are two ways that you'll hear. The way that I just taught you is the formal way. It's the way that's considered educated English. But you will also hear Americans just use regular simple past. And you'll hear Americans say, if I was rich. And that is informal. An English teacher might tell you, no, it should be were, but you'll hear Americans use this a lot. They'll just use the regular form, past form of be. So you will hear that. Okay? So I know that you, sorry. So if you've heard people saying, oh, if I was president, or if I was Bill Gates, or if I was Donald Trump, Americans will say that a lot. But the formal way, the way that's considered educated, and the way you want to use for your college papers would be, if I were, I forgot what I said. In any case, I could say, if I were an actor, or if I were Bill Gates, or if I were Donald Trump, that is considered the more educated form. Now, the reason why has to do with the history of the language, and I think it's too long to explain. But if you're really interested, send me a note, email me, or make an appointment, and I'll talk to you about it. But I think the easiest thing is just to remember this rule. When the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were, if I want to be educated, okay? Or if I want to show, yes, I went to school, I learned educated English. Okay, let me give you a few more examples, and then we'll be done. Where did I put my eraser? Here it is. Okay. Let's say I have a friend named Marvin, and he is single. Marvin doesn't have a wife, Marvin doesn't have a girlfriend. And so Marvin is single and he's very unhappy. But I want to show, in my mind, I want to imagine that Marvin is married. What would happen? Take a moment and complete the sentence. You can pause. Pause the video. If you're sitting next to somebody, talk to someone about it. Okay. Now, I want to remember, in the if clause, if the verb is be, I always use were. In the if clause, if the verb is be, I'll always use were. So I'd say, if Marvin were married, and then the other clause, just the same as normal. In the other clause, it's always would plus simple form. So I could say, he would be much happier. If Marvin were married, he would be much happier. Okay, let's try one more. Let me see. I'm trying to think of a good sentence here using be. Okay. If Alice be, let's see here, a doctor, she blank treat patients. So let's say I have a friend named Alice, and maybe Alice is a teacher, or maybe she works in a grocery store, or maybe she does software. But I want to imagine Alice, doctor. Okay? So again, please finish this sentence. Please pause the video, finish it in your mind, or finish it on a piece of paper. Okay. Again, the rule I want to remember is when the verb in the if clause is be, I always use were. And then in the other one, I just use normal. So I'd say, if Alice were a doctor, she would treat patients. Would and simple form. in the other clause. Okay, that's everything that I wanted to tell you about chart 23.